It's Tuesday's weather for Weather Geeks here on January 13th, still basking in the glow of the Buckeyes' victory last night. Hope you, if you're into football and a fan of Ohio State, hope you had a great time enjoying the game last night. The weather is quieting down this week in the wake of a busy period last week, heading into the weekend and into yesterday morning. The weather is taming down pretty quickly. Wanted to start with kind of a quick review of the first 12 days of the month. We're almost halfway through January, and it has been a colder month, as advertised. You know, we talked about this in our winter forecast that when you look at the three traditional winter months, December, January and February would be worse compared to average than December. And of course, December was pretty mild and relatively snow free. And now we're starting to catch up in the snow department, and certainly temperatures have been on the cold side. We're at about -5 or so in our temperature departure from average for the first 12 days of the month. And with the recent snowfall, after a snow drought in December, we're up to 27.5 inches for the season at the Youngstown Warren Airport. That's getting to be pretty close to average for this time of the season. In a typical season, we pick up closer to 60 for the season as a whole, but of course we're still only in mid-January. Lots of winter left to go. But our recent snowfall numbers have been certainly inflated a little bit by the recent storminess. Last year at this time we had 44 inches worth of snow, so we're of course behind last year's pace, but still getting pretty close to average, and we're actually pretty close to where we were 2 years ago, back in 2013. Through January 12th, we had 28.1 inches that year, and again, this year we're at 27.5. These records are for the Youngstown Warren Airport, of course, in Vienna. Your mileage may vary a little bit depending on where you live. Well, it's a quiet weather day across most of the region. It's cold outside, but with a big area of high pressure, which is centered right over here, over Lake Ontario or just to the east. Mostly clear sky. This grayish color that you're picking up around Ohio and PA is not clouds for the most part. For the most part, that is, of course, snow cover, snow on the ground, and you can kind of pick out where the edge of the snow cover is. It's kind of right down through here. That's where anywhere north of that, there's snow on the ground. Anywhere south of it, there is not, down towards the Ohio River. But flurry or two up west of Cleveland with actually a little reverse lake effect this afternoon. It's kind of interesting. The wind this afternoon blowing in this direction, creating a little bit of lake effect west of Cleveland. Usually you see the lake effect over here coming in with a northwest or west wind, but just a little bit of flurry activity west of Cleveland. No big deal there. Otherwise, you need the shades this afternoon. It's cold out. These are the early afternoon temperatures, right around 2 o'clock. 16 in Youngstown and Newcastle. Thankfully, there's not much in the way of a breeze, so the wind chills are in the single digits, but it's not a big drop from the temperature to the wind chill this afternoon. And boy, there's plenty of cold air to be found across the eastern 1 or 2/3 of the country this afternoon. We have lots of, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. We have lots of single digits and teens around the Great Lakes into the northeast. It's even below zero in parts of Quebec and Ontario. And it's below average all the way down into the Gulf Coast this afternoon. Florida's really the only warm spot. Florida's had a pretty nice little stretch while the rest of the country has been shivering. All right, we're going to blitz through this week pretty quickly because there's not a lot to talk about. Tonight's going to be a cold night. These are the projected overnight lows on the NAM model. The numbers may be a little hard for you to see, but I think some of us are going to flirt with zero tonight, perhaps even a degree or two below zero in some spots. And these lows are likely to occur around midnight or so. Temperatures may actually start to gently rise later on at night, but I think your home thermometers may see the goose egg in some spots overnight with the relatively fresh snow cover and a mostly clear sky for at least part of the night. We expect really nothing to happen weather-wise through Thursday. This is a look at Friday. A little weak front will be coming through parts of the northeast on Friday, and this might kick up a flurry or two, especially up in northwest PA. Not sure if that would get back to Youngstown or not, but that's our next chance of any little piddling precipitation. Until then, no snow worries at all, and even that on Friday, again, not a big deal, just a flurry probably. I think Saturday is going to end up being a pretty nice day and probably the better half of the weekend. Here's Saturday afternoon with a big strong high shifting off the east coast and a southwest wind developing ahead of a cold front. We should see a nice warming trend with a breeze and some sunshine on Saturday. And I say that's the better half of the weekend because I think on Sunday now, there's likely to be another cold front slipping in, and this may kick up a couple of flurries, perhaps even a rain shower in spots on Sunday, and a little shot of chilly air behind that front early next week. This is the temperature trend. This is today, of course. We're going to climb through the 20s, so we're going to stay below average through the end of the week. Saturday, a milder day. We probably get above freezing, and Sunday we might get above freezing as well. But then we take a little dip back to maybe a little bit below freezing behind that front early next week. A warm up for midweek. Overall, the long range trend, it looks a little colder than it did for this period when we looked at it last week. Looked like the cold might come back at the end of January, and we'd have a nice mild period for a few days around the 20th to 23rd. Looks like the cold may arrive a little sooner now, so while we still can have a few mildish days, look at the trend here in the longer range, and it looks like it's trending down. So lots of winter left to go. I do think that our chances for any accumulating snow are pretty minimal for the next 6-7 days. Beyond that, it's hard to say, but this is not a particularly frigid pattern we're heading into for the next 2 weeks. And for the next week, at least, not a particularly snowy pattern either for Northeast Ohio and Western PA. Well, that's the Tuesday weather for Weather Geeks. Thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you tonight on 21 News at both 6 and 11. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.